everyone. So happy to see you today. My name is Richardson Oxendine. First name is Amelia, but funny story about that. I was in first grade, and the teacher starts calling Amelia Richardson, and I'm looking around like, who is that, and why won't they answer? I've always been known as Kay. The teacher kept on, and I'm like, gosh, this is embarrassing. How come that kid doesn't know her name? And finally the teacher comes and says, excuse me, I think that's you. And I'm like, oh. I mean, Mom claims that she told me my first name was Amelia. I don't know, kind of sketchy because I do not remember. So anyway, I go by Kay. When I was a little girl, my parents would describe me as, she's very creative. Now, for a very long time, I thought that was a bad thing until I learned what creative meant. And so I was like, yeah, I guess I am that. I guess I do enjoy doing things like that. Okay, fine. I am from the HALIWA-SAPONI tribe, which is located in Hollister, North Carolina. Both of my parents are from that same tribe. They grew up together. Very small community. We are actually a combination of several different tribes that came together. So we actually formed a community called the Meadows. And from that union became HALIWA-SAPONI. HALIWA is actually an abbreviation of Halifax and Warren County. And the name Saponi was added later on just to add more of a tribal link to our name. I am the baby of 3 children. My brother's name is Arnold. He was born in North Carolina when my mother was very young. My mother and father then moved to Richmond, and my sister, Julie, was born also in Richmond, and I was born in 1962 in Richmond. And if anyone's ever been to Richmond, I was actually born in the Fan, which is a huge community that actually looks like the Fan. It fans out at the old Johnson Willis. It's actually like on a corner. Now, when I was born, Mother tells me that she was out. Okay. She pretty much was in a coma. She woke up and they told her, you have a daughter. And she didn't see me till I was a few days old. And in doing so, Mother asked for my birth certificate and they wrote she was white. And Mother said, my daughter is not white. She is American Indian. And the woman said, oh, they don't exist anymore. Just keep it as white. And because it had already been inked in, Mother was not able to change it. And I, as I got older, had to use my birth certificate for many things, of course. And I, as an adult, did change it. And you know, it's just funny how things are, because I also do genealogy. And these things really do matter, because when you go back over time and look at different things, you see things like this. And usually the confusion with especially American Indians comes in the fact whoever the person was who actually wrote out these forms and what they decide you are is who you become, but not necessarily, okay? We are all about the true history being told about the Native American and just all minorities, really, because if you read some of the history books today, they don't quite tell the accurate depiction. Anyway, all of those things motivated me to write. Because I didn't understand a lot of things. Mom and Dad would tell me things, and Mom said I was that kid, that kid that everybody hates. You walk into a room and they're like, why are you wearing that? Why did you do that? And Mom said, you drive me crazy, but I was very inquisitive. I wanted to know things. And as I learned things, I was like, maybe somebody else would like to know that. There you go. So I began to share with my writing. I have several books that I've written, and I'm going to share my whole series with you of what I've written so far. My first book that I wrote was in 5th grade. It actually was a project. I have the original book here. I don't know if you can see it, but you see how worn and torn it is. The name of the book is Marilyn and Ed. I wrote about my parents because I thought that was a coolest story. You know, they grew up together and they fell in love, and here we are. But funny thing is that my teacher never took the book back. I think she may have marked it or looked at it, but she never took the book back. And you can see that some of these things are very, very faded, like I said. I don't know if you can see it, but it says Marilyn and Ed, and there's a picture of them being all cutesy, cutesy, cutesy. But I have enjoyed, and this is how I saw my dad. He was a stud. Look at that stud muppet. Oh my God! Rudy approved. And this was how I saw my mom. They both were in their bathing suits for some reason. I don't know why I decided to do that. But anyway, cancer, I'm a water baby. Okay, explain that. But like I said, the pages are very torn. And but this is from, if anybody's ever been to the Lynch household, this was a picture from a 5th grader of what the front porch of the Lynch household looked like. And of course, I'll just read a little bit of this for you. Ed and Marilyn loved to go to Marilyn's mother and see everyone in her family. Her mother lived in a beautiful house on a farm. They had plenty of trees that were beautiful and plenty of crops, and lived close to a road that cars and trucks went on fast. One day, Ed and Marilyn decided to get married. Marilyn selected a wedding dress, and was ready in a jiffy. Her gown was a short and a baby pink that she would wear and show off in. Ed looked very handsome as both of them walked down the aisle of the chapel. The pastor asked them all stuff you would say at a wedding. I didn't know what they said at a wedding, so... And this, of course, was my idea of the wedding party. Oh my God, this is so cute. This is my idea of the wedding party. Okay? And if you see at the bottom, my dad was the oldest of 12 kids, and he was very young. Of course, they were in their late teens when they married. So and they have an initial above all of their names. See, if you can see that. Everyone was there, including all of Marilyn's family and all of Ed's family, all of their brothers and sisters, and Marilyn's parents and Ed's mother, all of their old school friends, and everybody that they knew almost were there. It was a very beautiful ceremony. Flowers and everything was at the wedding. And of course, this is my panoramic view of the church, you see. See, 3D, you see, I was advanced. You see that? This was my mother telling my father that she's pregnant. If you see this. She's saying, Ed, get up, because he was in shock. It's not really how it happened, but that was my idea of how it happened. I'm going to stick with it, okay? One day, Marilyn told Ed something very exciting. One time, Marilyn told Ed to sit down so that she could tell him something. It was that Marilyn told Ed she was pregnant. Remember, I was in 5th grade. He was shocked. She said, Ed, you can get up now. Ed. And of course, he just sat there because he was in shock. So Ed helped Marilyn do the work. Really, he did it all himself. This was Daddy, what he told me. Okay, so this is a man in the kitchen. He washed the dishes, and he cooked, and he vacuumed, and really he got her whatever she wanted. And you see the role reversed when she was pregnant. There's Mom sitting demanding things from Daddy. You see. I don't know where that big old mustache came through. My daddy had on an apron. That's so cute. Oh my goodness. I haven't looked at this book in so long. Finally, the day came. Marilyn and Ed were both worried and scared, but finally they weren't scared anymore. The hospital was very nice. They had a children's ward, which the nurses had helped the children that were crippled. Then Marilyn had a boy, which his initials were AKR, which was Arnold Keith Richardson. They were very glad. And you see that's a picture of one of the nurses there walking with the children. One year later, Marilyn and Ed were expecting again. Can you believe it? They named this one, which was a girl, Juliet Denise Richardson. She was very hairy, Mother said. But still they adored her. One lady came and asked to be her godmother. And then Mother said she never saw her again. She ran for the hills. 2 years later, another? Right. This one was the same girl. Her initials were AKR, the same as her brother, Amelia K. Oxendine. Richardson! But Marilyn didn't see her until 3 days after she was born. The reason was because they thought she had brain trouble. That's what I was told at 5th grade. I guess that she just had bad luck. Arnold and Julie got along with her, though. Kay was 18 months when she had a pneumonia. I had a pneumonia. They were afraid she would die. Now, what's important about that, you see, I drew a picture of the three of us as children, but my sister went back in my book and looked at it, and where it says thought she would die, my sister wrote, at least we hoped. I know she didn't mean it. The author, spelled A-R-T-H-E-R, was me. This was me in 5th grade. I did a little page for myself. Oh my goodness. This is Kay Richardson. She has just graduated to the 6th grade. This story is about her family when they were 18 and 16. That's her mom and dad. She really enjoyed writing it. And plus, this is Kay writing it. To all of you who are reading this book, please sign your name in the space. And, you know, that was something cool. So a lot of people signed it along the way. My sister wrote on number 11, Pig, Richardson, Arnold, or Kay. Okay, so there you go. And this was also a picture of my mom in her makeup. That was my first writing, and that was in 5th grade. And I really understood at that time how much joy it brought. And Mother always told me that I had a way of saying things that other people just didn't do. So she always encouraged me to continue to express myself. As time went on, I wrote for several magazines and newspapers. I've been published in probably 100 by now. I've been published in France in one of their textbooks, And I actually owned my own newspaper for a few years in King William County. I was editor for 3 different magazines. Well, newspapers. I was also editor for a few magazines. When Native Hoop first came out, I was one of their editors. And I worked with Native Vision. One thing that I really enjoy writing about is my culture. I think it's really important, and the lesson that I've learned through my storytelling is that everyone has a story to tell, no matter what it is. I have a story to tell that will be way different from you, so I encourage everyone out there to tell your story. It is really incredible, and it's weird for me because after I write something, it's really hard for me to go back and read it. Because when you really start writing, it's like the characters take over and they become something that you just can't even imagine. Anyway, so I wrote my first, then I began writing for a series of books a few years ago. This was Here Are My Peeps, the story of the Richardson and Lynch families of the HALIWA-SAPONI tribal nation. Look at there. Look who signed that. Wes Studi. I met him a few years ago. I've known Wes probably about 20 years or 30, I guess, now, because my daughter was a little girl when we worked on the movie The Broken Chain. And I went to visit, and my son is in school now at UNC Pembroke. And I went down there to visit him, and Wes Studi was one of the speakers. So I went up and said, hey, sign my book. And he did. So keeping that forever. But I wrote a series of books. And they told all about my people. And I'll just show you a few pictures here. And again, I have a very large family. This is a picture of my mother's family, you see. And then the second book I wrote was Grandma Mary. I ended up writing 5 different ones, okay? The second series in that book was Grandma Mary. And honestly, I could talk for hours and hours about my grandmother Mary. You know, as I get older, people tell me that I look a lot like her. And the other day, one of the girls that I was with said, you walk just like Miss Mary. My grandma was bad, y'all. She was like my Shiro. She was bad to the bone. Strongest woman I ever knew. So took a lot of, took a lot of pride knowing who she was, you know. Then I wrote about my mother's family. This is Granddaddy Fletcher, and I have one more for Grandma Annie Lahr. Now, I wrote all about those, and with the intention of going up to the next tier. And when I started writing about them, I realized I didn't know too much about my great-great-grandparents. So that kind of sparked my interest in genealogy. So I've really been studying about that and learning as much as I can about my great-grandparents. And I haven't given up on that series. I just wanted to tell accurate information about them. Well, as much as I could, you know. After these books, I decided I was going to write my first novel. And my first novel was called Storytelling at Marshall's Encampment. It is written in modern day. No tribal affiliations are named because it is truly set in any Indian community. Really funny. I'm a funny person. I'm telling you, my books are funny. But they talk about real issues. They talk about human trafficking. They talk about rape. They talk about suicide. They talk about poverty. But they also talk about good things, talking about our culture, our powwow, how the medicine keeps us whole, and how we are able to really grow and learn, and how about sharing our stories. And so that was my first book. It was really funny because 2019, I wrote 4 books. I mean, it was like they were coming like that. And So I went on and wrote my second novel. But in between those, I wrote this Powwow Pocket Guide. Now, I also am a MC, one of the few female MCs on the East Coast. And I went to a powwow, and someone said, one of my friends was asking me all these questions, and I was answering it, and someone, you should write a book about that. Okay, so I did. But there's a picture of me and my papoose, my baby girl. She's now 30. She'll be 32 in March of 2021. And it just gives you a step-by-step guide, some of the things you wanted to ask about powwows but were too afraid to ask. I've had a lot of fun with that book. And then I finished my second novel, where it just picked up where storytelling at Marshall's encampment left off, called Satch's Lagoon. All right, and again, really talking about the missing and murdered Indigenous woman movement a bit, just touching base on it, but really delving a lot more into the characters. There are few characters in the book that are lesbians. It's crazy, and I don't know how to say this, but like my characters just chose their own paths. Someone asked me, why did you make your character gay? I said, I had nothing to do with it. Okay. As I'm writing it, they're choosing their own paths, and I'm just writing. So, hey, that's the way it rolls. But, it's a great read. I've heard tremendous things about it. It is on Amazon, and when it came time to write the third one, right when I was settling down to do it, COVID hit. And everything kind of froze for me. So I haven't been able to finish that third novel, but I really believe that 2021 is the year, because the characters are kind of crying to me. They want their stories to be told. So I believe I'm going to finish that in 2021. But I also wrote a book about my son called Thunder the Overcomer. My son is amazing. The story of a long-haired, gifted Indian boy. Jonathan had always just an amazing kid from the day he was born. Just always intuitive, always, just very personable, but he knew things. In our tribes, we call it, he had good medicine. And so I decided to write a story about him, and I am going to write another story about a little girl, and it will be framed around my daughter as well. But, I say all that to say that everyone has a story to tell. And these earrings in their own right tell a story. My daughter gave me these. I don't know if you can truly see the beauty of them, but one of our tribal members decided to start her own jewelry line. Her name was Brittany Anstead. She is now married and lives, I believe, in either Michigan or somewhere out there. And she has a beautiful little girl, an incredible fancy dancer. And she made these earrings, and my daughter gifted them to me at my last birthday. That is in itself is a story, because I get to wear it and share it with you, because I just absolutely love these. I do sing as well, and you see my drum up here. My friend Puda Faye made that drum for me, and she put the heart on there because she always said that I had the heart for everyone. I was always trying to make people laugh and make them happy. So I'll take that. I think that's pretty good. But, writing is a form of art. And I also have the ability to storytell when I go to different powwows. But, I love the ability that I have to write and to share. And I really want to thank all of you for taking the time you did today to listen to my story. Again, my name is Kay Richardson Oxendine. I am from the HALIWA-SAPONI tribe, and I'm very happy to be with you. Have an awesome day.